What's up guys, welcome to Vintage Genetics, where it is all about classic bodybuilding. And today we are in the northern parts of the Netherlands. As you can see, we are working out in a different gym, which, as you also could see, has awesome equipment like this handle that I'm using right now, which has a godly grip. It just feels amazing. But yeah, today is a back workout for the fitness, and we're working out in this gym called the Fitness Fabriek, which means fitness factory. And you may have guessed why it's called like that, because this used to be a factory hall, so it's very open, spatial, very nice to work out in because it's not too crowded. You have enough space for everything, and the machines are awesome. Every single machine is very smooth, feels very good, and you can put full range of motion into the exercise. As you can see right here, a full stretch, which I always praise for its importance. Arnold Schwarzenegger used to do this, Ronnie Coleman used to do this. They both had a great back, and I just feel it that much better when I stretch it like this. Because the more you stretch, as you can see, the better the contraction in the lower back. But the stretch will also activate the lats. So if you want back thickness, stretching is mandatory. And there's some pretty cool posters and motivational quotes on the walls here. As you can see, the factory is very high, a lot of space, and it just looks awesome, vintage. And there's the name Fitness Fabriek, which is Dutch for fitness factory. And then another awesome exercise, the T-bar row, a very classic exercise, but this one has handles that are quite modern. They twist and turn, and that actually makes you able to contract the back even better. When you supinate your wrists, basically, you're able to contract even deeper with your lower back. And again, the stretch should be optimal, and that is very possible with this machine. And who's that right there? Absolutely Arnold Schwarzenegger representing in this gym. So you know that the owner knows his stuff when Arnold Schwarzenegger is on the walls. I just find it very motivating to look at a physique that is basically my dream physique to have, so that you work out just a little bit harder to achieve it. And then it is time for the independent seated row, one that I have never done before or ever seen in a gym before. Probably in America there are a couple of gyms who have this, but in the Netherlands it's not that common. 2 different cables for the row. This again turns it into a very different exercise, which to me is amazing. Again, I'm using the twisting motion in order to maximally contract and stretch the back for the optimal feeling in the back muscles. The range of motion here is a little limited, but that actually makes the exercise a little harder because you cannot use as much momentum, and you really have to focus on the contraction, which these cables are perfect for. And one exercise that we haven't done for a long time, which I really missed, the hyper extension for the lower back. There are 2 versions of this exercise that you can do. You can do one for the lower back, but also one for the hamstrings. The movement is exactly the same, but the outcome and the feeling should be different. When you focus on the lower back, you really want to contract the lower back at the top, and when you go down as deep as you need to go to feel the stretch in your lower back. If you would be training the hamstrings, you would be going even lower, because then the stretch in the hamstrings is more important, and at the top you will then contract the glutes, which kind of automatically happens even when you're targeting the back. And as you can see here, I'm using a weight because the body weight is too light. And using a weight like this, a plate in front of your chest, makes it a little more challenging. But this is an amazing classic exercise for lower back thickness, that Christmas tree. And after doing all those rowing exercises and back thickness exercises, it's time for a rear delt exercise, but I'm focusing a lot on the traps as well. This is an amazing way to target the rear delts and the trap thickness. This is basically on a pec deck machine, which you normally use for flies for the chest, but if you do it reversed like this, you can do the same movement but then hit the rear delts. And what you want to feel is the peak contraction when you are in the squeezed position, and then you know that you're doing the exercise right. And then it's time for biceps, of course, starting out with a classic for the bicep peaks, the close grip preacher curls. And I have to say that when looking back at this footage, I do think my peak has improved at least a little bit by doing these exercises consistently on a consistent basis. You cannot just do them once every few weeks. If you really want to work on the peaks of your biceps, you got to do it pretty much every time, at least one exercise that targets the peak. Now, this close grip actually causes the tension on your bicep to shift to the outsides. And as I always say, when the outside head of the bicep is becoming larger, higher, more peaked than the inside, that will create that classical peak that Arnold used to have and Ronnie Coleman has. Now, some have it genetically, but if you don't, doing all of this will cause the peaks to grow, because this is only one exercise in an arsenal full of exercises for building the biceps, specifically the peaks. And as well as the preacher curl we just did, this concentration curl will work on the peaks just as well, if not better. Again, a classic exercise straight from the golden era of bodybuilding, the concentration curl. A lot of people don't really know how to perform this exercise or create and make a tutorial video, but you basically have to curl the dumbbell up to your other shoulder to create that peak tension. And we are supersetting this with a rope pushdown. Why? Because supersetting antagonists is actually beneficial for muscle growth. As you can see, when I'm contracting the triceps at the same time, the biceps, which are now pumped, are being stretched. And this causes more blood, nutrients and oxygen to flow through the entire arm, the entire muscle group. My bicep was quite in pain actually, the left one, because the bicep tendon is a little bit inflamed. It's been like that for weeks. I'm just making the classical mistakes of thinking that when I don't feel it anymore that I can train heavy again. But you got to give your body the rest that it needs and don't overdo it, because the minute that I did heavy leg pull downs again, all of a sudden the bicep tendon started to hurt again, and then you're back to square one. And I'm going to make a video on everything that I'm going to do and have done to fix my bicep tendon problem, which has gone away quite a lot actually already, but it's still prevalent. I can already do preacher curls like this. Regular curls are a little more difficult for some reason, but the angle of the preacher curl, I don't feel the bicep tendon that much, and I cannot really go down all the way because then the stress of the bicep tendon is too much to handle without pain, and I want to avoid the pain. A little bit is good to promote collagen synthesis, but too much will bring you back to square one. But again, this is another preacher curl, and this one is again also to target the bicep peaks. This is really a workout to work specific parts of the muscle groups. For the back thickness, meaning the lower back and the upper back thickness. And for the biceps, we are working the peaks. Now this one is a very nice finisher for the biceps. The overhead Cable curls, again a machine that you don't see very often. You can do a lat pull down here as well if you want with these cables, with these handles. Yeah, 2 different cables, but if you lean back like this and do them overhead, which means do them behind your head, you will feel the contraction a lot better. Anyway guys, that was the video of today. I will post another video of this gym, but then the open day, which I previously talked about. I'm gonna show you everything we did there, and don't forget to stay golden.
Ga je hem filmen? Ja, ik wil er even op zijn borst drukken als je denkt. Ja, dat is...
Oh, als je filmt. Of
zie je echt kijken of die past.
Fitness Factory. And you may have guessed why it's called like that, because this used to be a factory hall, so it's very open, spatial, very nice to work, just feels amazing. But yeah, today is a back workout for the fitness, and we're working out in this gym called the Fitness Fabriek, which means... What's up guys, welcome to Vintage Genetics, where it is all about classic bodybuilding. And today we are in the northern parts of the Netherlands. As you can see, we are working out in a different gym, which, as you also could see, has awesome equipment like this handle that I'm using right now, which has a godly grip.
Handle of the gods.